Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit, the week ending Friday, June 21st. It's almost summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Well,
It's
I
the
guess it would
equinox.
be at the summer equinox or winter equinox, I guess, if you're Anthony Sassano and you're in Melbourne, Australia,
Oh
right?
wait, no, it's not. It's the solstice, not the equinox. Summer
Oh,
solstice.
yeah. The
Yeah,
equinox would be in the fall and
the,
in the
yeah,
spring, right?
yeah. That's right. Yeah, so it's the solstice today. So that's really
Are
cool.
we gonna, well, are we gonna have a rocket pool summer? What do you think? It's starting to ramp up.
I,
I'm feeling good vibes here.
yeah, like I think it's really funny because like Rocket Pool hit its all-time highs when the crypto market was in despair and everything was falling apart, and Rocket Pool was going to all-time highs against ETH and all-time highs against the US dollar, and it was kind of like out there on its own, flying the Rocket Pool flag. And like Lido was doing well, and there's some other projects like GMX that were doing well, but it was a very like isolated kind of market that Rocket Pool was finding itself in. What's really
Hmm.
funny is like right now there's all this hype around Rocket Pool, and some of it's justified, some of it's like, hype getting ahead of itself like it always does. But the fact is that the wider crypto market's feeling kind of down and dejected. Like people aren't enjoying themselves, especially altcoin holders. And
Yeah.
the fact that, with Rocket Pool this last week, like good things have happened and it's really changed the perspective of people. Now, it's fickle, right? Like, sentiment changes on a dime. So it's not to say that, we it's green, like blue skies ahead, but there's a possibility of it being a nice little period for Rocket Pool in the coming months.
Right. Yeah, we're going to talk about some of that.
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at the price action for Ethereum. It hasn't been that, we're stuck in that range, right? Right now, as of recording, we're at 3,504 in
Hmm.
US dollars. For the week, if we look at this, it's flat, 0.06% up for
Yep.
the week in dollar terms, down 7% over 14 days, and minus 3% 30 days. If we take a look at Rocket Pool, on the other hand, it's been, I mean, look, this last week especially, look at this giant God candle here. For the week, we're up 44, almost 45% in US dollar terms. And I haven't figured it out, Whack, but we were at, about 0.0054 on the ratio, and currently we're at 0.0078,
Hmm.
which is a huge increase in just 1 week.
Yeah.
Um,
So with ETH
we
being
we
flat,
could talk about that. Yeah,
yeah,
go
with
ahead.
ETH being flat, it's kind of in that channel. I think people are just waiting for the ETFs to start trading. And like I said, the wider market showing some weakness. Like Bitcoin is kind of just chilling like 10%, 15% below all-time highs. ETH is just kind of chilling like 20, 25% below all-time highs. And people are just like, do something. You know what I mean? They're getting kind of bored. They're getting impatient.
Yeah.
They're seeing some outflows into the BTC ETFs. They're seeing like alts not doing that well. Like even Solana is down about 33% against ETH over the last few weeks, over the last couple of months. So people are just like, market, do something. Like, we're getting
I
bored
know,
here. We
do
need some more
something.
action. And the action is in those some of those ETH beta plays. Like LDO's done really well, Rocket Pool's done really well, and there's always a bull market somewhere. And thankfully, it's our turn to have that bull market right now. So
Yeah.
people are feeling a little bit better about it.
Yeah. It's funny. We're like, oh, would the market do something? And I was just looking at the Ethereum chart, a 1 year chart. We're up 106%. Would you just
Exactly.
do something? I
Yeah,
mean,
do
it's
something,
only
market.
100% for the
Yeah,
last 12 months.
yeah,
Would you just, Debs, do something?
yeah.
That's not good enough. I need a thousand
Exactly,
percent.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
we're so
That,
short-sighted. We're like looking at the
mhm.
minute charts, the 5 minute charts, the daily charts, and sometimes
Yeah,
we forget to zoom out a little bit. Like, hey, look at 100% up over the last year.
yeah.
But you're right. And we've been trading in this range. And I meant to bookmark this post. I don't know who it's by, and if any of the listeners saw the same one, just comment. But they did some analysis of the ETF flows for BTC, and they found that the vast majority of the flows were from online brokerages, and the
Mm.
average buy was like $14,000. And so the conclusion of the author was, this is just your typical degen TradFi person investing in BTC. but you're not seeing the institutions or the big players get in yet because
Yeah.
it's still, I guess it's still relatively early. And I imagine, you know, there's no reason to think that that trend wouldn't continue with Ethereum
Hmm.
ETFs when they go live. We're going to get your DGen TradFi folks jumping in first, and it's just going to take a while for I think the wheels to start churning in TradFi world.
Yeah.
Your private financial planners, talking to their clients and getting them into it, and it's just going to take. It's a long term thing, the ETF really, and
Yeah.
perhaps with a short term bounce.
Now, when that's really interesting, right? Because you look at the BTC ETF, and it's the most performant ETF of all time over this time frame, right? By far, like significantly, like by multitudes. Now, with BTC, I remember back to like November and December, when we pretty much knew it was pretty much guaranteed that the ETF was going to be approved and everything was going to happen. At that time, like all these TradFi bros were going on podcasts and saying, this is going to take years for all the wheels and all the systems and everything to be like aligned and in motion and everything like working out. It's going to take
Mm-hmm.
years. Like, in the first year, you'll see these kind of people coming online. In the second year, you'll see these kind of people coming online. Then in the third year, you'll see these kind of people coming online. And this is what it will look like, and this is how it will impact the dynamics, and these are what the kind of passive flows will be, and blah blah blah. And some of that got pulled early, I think. Like, people were anticipating that, Bitcoin might run, so they wanted to get in
Mm-hmm.
early. It's not like, a TradFi stock where it goes up by 10% a year or 20% a year or whatever. This is, going up by 10% a week. So if you get in early, there's a bit of, it's worthwhile to take a little bit of a risk to get in early. So some of that might have gotten pulled early, but there's still a lot of things happening behind the scenes, which shows that this is going to be a longer process, and that piece of evidence that you just shared, I think, is part of that, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
one of the guys from Bitwise actually went on the Bankless podcast a few months ago, and during the like Ethereum ETF approval talk, and he was talking about other things as well. But one of the things he said was, in all honesty, like it would be better if the ETH ETF was approved in December instead of like now, because the benefit that would happen is it would give TradFi like pretty much a year to kind of digest the Bitcoin ETF and get all their marketing around it and all their sales pitches and all the educational materials. And once they've got all that stuff in place, then they can start focusing on the ETH ETF. Whereas if it comes sooner than that, then they'll be juggling two at the same time and like blah blah blah. And I don't know how salient that argument was or wasn't, but there's
Mm-hmm.
this idea that, like I'm trying to say, is that these things take time. And one of the things that I've been talking about on Rocket Fuel this week a lot is the ETH ETFs and how flows into them might surprise to the upside. And the point that I was making was like, this might not take days or weeks, but there's machinations and systems in play here where in 6 months, in 1 year, you could see the ETFs strongly favoring ETH compared to BTC and how that might work. And that was me being really, really bullish on the ETFs, whereas other people just don't see that, I feel like, the moment. So
Mm-hmm.
ETH, right now is a bit flat, so people are bored. RPL is pumping, so the community is really happy, which is wonderful to see. It's so much fun being in the Discord again because of the RPL price action. And honestly, like the price action has brought attention, and then attention coming has people have seen that there's something going on, which is always wonderful. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on this and see, how much this move has legs. Right now, according to the technical analysis, technical analysts, we're at like a pretty crucial point. Like, we should try to maintain a position here before, like, as long as we don't go down, try to move up. I think that would be interesting to see how it goes over the next few weeks.
Right. Yeah, but I was curious let's take a look at what Lido's been doing because that's, our chief competitor and another LST in terms of price over the last, 7 days or 30 days. So it's up 15% for the week. It's down 5% on the 30-day chart, just in USD terms.
Yeah,
But, it has had a little pump, as you can see,
yeah,
um, over the last week. So it's a different token. Like you were mentioning on your podcast how we've got all the tokens are free. They're not held in like by VCs, and we don't have that in Rocket Pool. What
Yep.
you see is what you get. There's like 20 million tokens or about floating,
Yep.
and whereas some of these others they're getting the unlocks by their VCs and dumping more tokens onto the market. And there's been a lot of talk about like why are these altcoins struggling? And I think there's a couple reasons. One is that the unlock periods, and you look at the market caps are going up for say like an Arbitrum, but the price is not going up. It's because you're getting that sell pressure of more tokens out and more supply.
Yep.
But on the other hand, let's take a look at this chart. I saw this on your show yesterday. I was like, oh, dude, you got this one. I like this chart here because it just, if you're listening, the chart it's called the speculation index, and it basically charts the 90-day returns of altcoin, like an altcoin index versus Bitcoin. And as of right now, we're at kind of in the low trough. So altcoins are suffering against a big Bitcoin. And so we're just kind of going through that cycle. So, and which is where most altcoins are suffering against the big guys, the Bitcoins and the Ethereums. But what's positive to think about this is that even with this trend
Yep.
downward, Rocket Pool is pushing upward against it, and that's impressive. Given the tide is moving out here, Rocket Pool is moving in, and having a really strong, month. And as you said, it's bringing attention to the protocol. People see the price move and they start looking. Hey, what's going on? Oh, guess what? We had Houston, went live this week. What does Houston do? Oh, it does this, this, and this. Becomes the most decentralized. It solidifies Rocket Pool as the most decentralized protocol
Yep.
for liquid staking tokens, and does other things too. So why don't we transition to that? Houston went live. There was no bumps. I think there was a little small little bug with Grafana in the smart node stack
Yeah.
that had to be tweaked, right?
There was one also a tiny little thing as well with the price feed update, where it seemed like the ODA wasn't reporting the price of our ETH for a couple of days there. It was a very minor bug, and the issue was that the ODA members hadn't upgraded to the latest version of the smart node stack, which meant that they were not providing the data in the right way. But I think it just needed like 2 or 3 ODA members to update, and then that's been fixed. So that's the only actual bug. The Grafana thing is just cosmetics. Like that's not a big deal
Right.
in the slightest. Like Grafana breaks. Like you sneeze on Grafana and it breaks. You
I
have to like
know.
reconfigure it, and that was fixed really quickly as well. But
Yeah.
that wasn't an issue. But the price feed thing was a little bit of an issue. So people like it got a couple of looks at it, and then it was quickly figured out that it was just a matter of having the ODA members update to the latest version of the smart node stack. And once that happened, everything was fine. So there was, like, comparatively speaking, this was an excellently smooth upgrade, and things are working. It's really exciting. Like, we've got the process have started now for the Security Council and getting all that stuff set up and taking it into the PDAO's hands. Well, and of course it's the PDAO that's leading the charge on that as well. So that's fantastic. That now this is up to us, right? Like we're the ones who have to like take lead on this, and no one's going to hold our hand through this. Like you've got to step up now and get the job done. You got to like steward the protocol, and then on top of that, we already have started seeing our first stake ETH on behalf of transactions coming through, which is really cool to see as well. And
Yep.
I think there's a chance in a little while that lots of our transactions could be stake ETH on behalf of transactions going forward, which is really cool to see. So there's exciting stuff happening, and like the fact that it was so smooth was really great. Now, with the price, like the one of the things that I've been saying on Rocket Fuel is price brings attention, right? Like price moves, and then people come and say like they try to figure out why did the price move. Now,
Right.
if the price moves and there's nothing, when the attention comes, there's nothing there, then that price moves down just as quickly because people are just like, at this point, this is nothing. When price moves and people bring their attention and then they see that something's happening, that I think is like a really good catalyst and really good position to be in, because that attention comes like, oh wait, there's some fundamental stuff happening here. Like what's going on? Like I think one of the things that's happening over the last like month or 2 months is there's been this idea of the death spiral of Rocket Pool. And we've kind of mentioned at the show a couple of times, our ETH supply has gone down, node operator, not node operator, but mini pool count has gone down, the node operator ETH has gone down. And people are saying like the death spiral for Rocket Pool is going to collapse into nothing. But with the price, then you see the movement in price, and with the movement in price, you see there's stuff happening, and now people are like, oh wait, Rocket Pool's not dead. They're actually doing stuff. Like there's actually really exciting things happening here, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. But people are paying attention to Rocket Pool, and good things are happening, and that kind of reinforces each other. So this is great that Houston happened without a bump, but the price moved last week, and then Houston went live over the weekend, and it was really tight coupled, and it's not sure, we're not sure what the reason for the price bump is. We have some theories and ideas, but that might have been part of it. That like Houston is coming and it's going to do good stuff, so people started buying before that. So it's hopefully,
It's funny, these recent, huge price swings, it seems like they start in the middle of the night for us here in North America. So the joke is the Europeans are pumping, and then when the Americans wake up in the morning, they sell. So you get like, we'll get 100% pump, and then it retraces. And then,
yeah,
a few days ago, we had a really nice, like 20,
25,
30%
yeah,
overnight, and then it retraced a little bit.
a little bit, yeah. So Jasper actually has a theory here, and Jasper's
Yeah.
theory is that someone's doing time-weighted purchases into
Uh,
Rocket Pool, Lido, and some other LST tokens as well. And basically, that this person is coming along every few days and buying up a bunch of the tokens, and that's driving up the price. My theory is slightly different. I think someone's trying to short squeeze RPL. I think what happened is, we started with a good size buy that might be for whatever reason. That triggered the liquidation cascade last week, which drove up the price 100%. That obviously
mhm.
retraced, but in the retracement, I think there was evidence that there were more shorts being opened at that time. The idea that I have is, people who shorted it, they've got those positions now, and that person who maybe the same person who instigated the first short squeeze, if that was their goal, or someone just saw that there's a possibility of another short squeeze here. That's what I think might be happening. And I think that that'll be interesting to see if we can get the price into like, 31, 32, $33. That's when those shorts might be getting squeezed. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, like Binance, you can take 5 times leverage. That means if the price moves up 20% compared to the, if you take max leverage, then you get liquidated. So if people were taking, entering short positions at $30, that takes you into like 36, but the price went down to like 25, which then takes you into that 30s mark. So that's why I think like, above the 30s, there might be another liquidation cascade potentially brewing. Now, of course, that's speculation. I don't trade that. I'm not telling you to
Right.
take a trading advice based on this, but that's just my speculation. So there's different theories going around about what's going on, but in the reality, like, we just know that RPL is performing well, and Rocket Pool will hopefully start growing as a protocol again with more ETH and our ETH coming into it.
Yeah, with low liquidity, it doesn't take much to move the price up or down. If you did you come in with size, you can really move things if you
Yeah,
want.
if
Um,
you want to
right?
do that, yeah. But the
Yeah,
negative of that is like, people don't want to come in with size because the slippage is so high. So then you do your
sure.
time weighted
Right, the
purchases.
time
Like
weighted stuff.
you buy a little bit every few hours, or every few days, or whatever it is, and try to average out your time price that way. But yes, for
Yeah,
better or worse, right? Like people don't want to come in with size because there's so much slippage, but people who want to try to move the market and like, create short squeezes realize that it's possible to do that. You can put in a decent amount of ETH to get outsized price movement and then hope that other things happen in the market, and then there's likelihood of that happening, which we saw last week.
sure.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that Houston is going to require is the protocol DAO Security Council be established. And
Hmm.
Kateris had a really nice forum post. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but I thought it was just really well written, kind of starting at a high level of, who can be on the Security Council, how many members are we going to have. None of this stuff is outlined in. This is for the DAO to decide a lot of these specifics.
Yeah.
Is there a required response time of members of the council? What's the compensation? How many drills are we going to do? What happens if you don't show up? What should we have a leader? Communication, everything. So this is a really well thought out post. We'll have it in show notes, but I think, this is pretty much the first thing that now is the DAO's responsibility on implementing Houston is creating the Security Council and electing members to it. You have any
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, I love this post too. I actually spent a lot of time talking about the post and Pateris's response, but not the other responses because it's just a lot of information there. But just to give my audience the idea of what kind of discussions were taking place, and like I said, Pateris did a really great job putting this post forward and like really get the ball moving. This is a conversation that's been bubbling in the community for the last few months where people are
Yeah.
like, oh shit, we need to set up a security council. Like, what's it going to look like? And like Yoakum, I know had some ideas and thoughts and stuff that he was sharing about it. And now we've got Pateris putting this out in a much more public-facing way. I think people in the community who we expected to respond to this have responded really well to these ideas and like this framework. The next step is that we formalize it, like we put it into an RPIP, then we vote. So that's how it's going to work, right? Like, so what will happen is the ideas of what the Security Council should look like will get refined over the coming days and weeks. And then that will be made into an RPIP. And then the community will kind of get to discuss that draft RPIP and then vote on it. And then once that has been done, that will tell you, like, what we expect from the members of the Security Council, like everything about it, basically, all of these questions that you were just looking at. And then there'll be a way of how we select the Security Council, whether that'll be through a vote, or whether that'll be some kind of like headhunting, whether that'll be some kind of hiring people, like having people apply, and then the choosing. I don't think we know yet. It most likely will end up being some kind of vote, I think. So that's something to be like kind of careful about and kind of think about. But otherwise, I think there's some really good stuff here.
Yeah, definitely take a read because we'll be talking about this going forward. Now that Houston is live, NodeSet, our friends there, Nick and Wanderer, can really start getting their constellation working, and they have to do their audits to see how will the software look and feel on top of Rocket Pool. But it needed Houston live before they could start the audits.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just a post Wanderer posted. Now here he's talking about hyperdrive. Can you explain the differences between hyperdrive and constellation? What are the differences and
Yeah.
what do they
Okay.
both do?
So Hyperdrive is basically NodeSet's version of the smart node, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's their like software that their validators are going to run on top of. Now they're going to have different products that they're offering the market because NodeSet, the way that you should think of them is like a broker of node operators. So they will
Mm-hmm.
go to different people and they'll say, hey, like we've got this group of 300 node operators, you guys need node services, we can offer it to you. And all of those services, different services, are going to be built on top of their hyperdrive system that they built, which is their version 1 of that is getting ready to launch right now. Now, the reason why they're getting this version 1 out is actually they've actually got a different product that's launched as well, and that is their partnership with Gravitar. And Gravitar is a borrowing lending protocol where you deposit a liquid staking token like RETH. You can borrow their stable coin against it, which is called GRI. I've talked about it on Rocket Fuel. We've talked about it on Weekly Orbit as well before. Their node set is because Gravitar will have a whole lot of ETH in their vaults that's just sitting there doing nothing. So they're going to use that. I believe this is what it's going to look like. I don't know all the details, but they're going to use that ETH and stake it with NodeSet node operators on the Stakewise platform. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
partnership like 3 ways here that they're doing, and it looks like that's happening right now. So that's their product that they're getting out, and this is it's all going to be built on the hyperdrive system, and then Constellation is their add-on to hyperdrive that will be built on top of Rocket Pool. So that's the one that
I
will
see.
let people stake ETH and RPL on behalf of people depositors. Node operators will put that into Rocket Pool and do it that way. So that's their big flagship product that they're working towards. But I think this is just like kind of like a stepping stone, kind of see how things are, get our node operators working instead of just like waiting around for Constellation. I think there's little tidbits of alpha coming out of the NodeSet community that they're going to be doing other services as well. They sent out a
Mm-hmm.
quiz a couple of weeks ago, like a little questionnaire, asking people like what kind of servers they're comfortable running, what kind of hardware they're comfortable purchasing for NodeSet. Like are you willing to buy GPUs? Are you willing to buy servers space? Are you willing to do this and that? So I think they've got some stuff brewing in the background. I don't know the details of it. I'm just kind of like putting breadcrumbs together, but it seems like they've got some maybe like they're trying to work into AI, like being AI node operators, maybe like not like TradFi AI, not like Nvidia or anything, or like Open AI. This is like crypto AI, like there'll be crypto decentralized AI services that they'll provide like GPUs and services for. So they've actually got a few things brewing, like but Constellation hopefully will be here, before Houston went live. Nick told us it'll be 2 to 3 months after Houston. Now Houston is live, so hopefully it'll be here in 2 to 3 months' time. Like I'm thinking September, but that's going to be really exciting.
I guess the next announcement I'd be looking for is that the audits have started.
It's not
That's the side of
exactly.
NodeSet, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
then okay, now the ball's rolling. I can
Yeah,
then speculate it's going
yeah,
to be 2 to 3 months from that time because you know
yeah.
how the audits go, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the best case scenario is the date the audits start. Like there's a timeline, right? Like the audits will take 6 weeks for round one, and then
Yep.
you go back and you fix things, and then you put things into like a testing environment, and then people can test it. If they find bugs, then it has to go be audited again. I think 3 months is a little bit optimistic. Now we're on June 20th, so July, August, September. Like I think, September is like the optimistic time frame. People who are kind of factoring some delays might tell you like end of October potentially for everything to get done.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm always, it's when you're doing a project on your house, Whack, you know this. You say, okay, I'm going to remodel the bathroom and it's going to
Yeah.
cost me X amount of dollars
Yep.
and it's going to take me this amount of time. I
Hmm.
always add 20%.
Yeah. No, I
So you
think it's
think it's going
called.
to cost 10,000, it's going to be 12,000. If
I
you think it's going to take, uh, you know, two months, it's going to take 2.5 or something, right?
that I
Because
think
there's always stuff that goes wrong,
Yeah, in like computer
unforeseen.
science, there's like I think there's this thing called Hofstadter's law. I think is maybe I'm mistaken about that,
Mm,
but the idea is that any project that you take will take longer than you think, and any redundancy that you add onto that, it'll still take longer than that. So if it's going to take 6 months, it'll take nine. If you say, hey, it
yeah.
should take 6 months, but I'm going to say nine, then it'll take 12. And it's like whatever timeline you give, you will always be late, like regardless. So I think that idea like it makes sense. But I think, it's nice to stick with that 3 months thing. Like let's say September, and
Mhm.
let's work with September in mind. I'm sure this is what NodeSet guys are thinking, and then with that, they can potentially, you know, get it out by September. Hopefully, let's just say
Right.
September.
It's
No
always
delays.
there to push you.
Yeah,
You want to say
exactly,
optimistically, let's try to hit the optimistic ideal
exactly.
goal.
Yeah,
And if we go over a month late, well, but we tried, right?
yeah.
Okay, I want to highlight a last item for this week is you had a nice post and you stated, do you think Rocket Pool needs to change? Well, we're changing. Give us your feedback on the ideas the community has come up with. We'll listen, I promise. You can reply below this tweet. Now, this was LongForWisdom, posted this really nice summary on Reddit, trying to get feedback from people kind of outside of the Rocket Pool community on some of these changes, Rocket Pool version 2 that we're working on. And I just want to highlight this just for our listeners about what are some of these major changes that are potentially coming. We've got, of course, allow ETH only nodes, which is, I think, something the market has told us like we really want to do, or we wish we had, but Rockpool doesn't offer. No more RPL rewards and less RPL inflation, go from 5% inflation to 1.5%. No more RPL staking cliff to receive rewards. That's like, oh, you have to have 10%. If you fall below 10%, too bad, too sad. Our ETH fee remains at 14%, but we can change that in the future if needed by a vote. Node operators get 3.5% commission on borrowed ETH. RPL staking nodes share 5% of the commission, and so on and so forth. So I don't think this had a lot. Let's see. Well, there does seem to be some feedback as of yesterday, so that's good.
Yeah.
But I want to highlight this because we've kind of touched on tokenomics changes in the past, and it started last November. We've made a lot of progress. We're getting to the point now where we've got it almost all of it figured out, and now we're going to the community and outside of Rocket Pool to get some last minute feedback before this is moved forward in formal votes. Is
Yep.
that how you see where we're at, kind of where we're at here on the process?
That's exactly where we're at. Yeah. So the draft RPIPs are out there, the discussions are ongoing, and we're reaching the point now where we want to go to vote, and it looks like we'll be going to vote within the next 4 to 6 weeks. It's exciting. Like this is the
Yeah,
last bit of feedback, last bit of community engagement that the tokenomics nerds are doing, and
yeah,
it's amazing. Like they've done such a great job. Like anyone who actually sits down and engages with the ideas, you might not agree with them, you might like some things more than other things, but the way that they've structured the information and presented it to the world is absolutely fantastic. You can tell it's the result of not just hard work but a lot of care, and passion for Rocket Pool. And that's the great thing about this is this is all community driven. This is it now. This is the community stepping up to the big times, right? And this isn't happening in other communities. Like the other communities has token DAOs, and they don't really they say, hey, we've got an active DAO, we've got an active community and stuff, but when you actually scratch the surface, it's still the team doing all the driving. Whereas with Rocket Pool, the thing that I'm so impressed by and that makes me love Rocket Pool so much is that this is ours. We are doing this, and this is what's going to happen, right? And that's so exciting to me. Is this is what I said on Rocket Fuel this week as well. I was quite passionate about this. I said, we are in a position where we are steering a billions of dollar project. Literally,
yeah.
Rocket Pool is like a $5 billion project, so thereabouts. We have an active hand in steering that project and shaping sentiment about it, and shaping the direction of it. You can't say that about anything else. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Just a regular Joe off the street, you can turn up, provide good ideas, provide hard work, provide consistency of effort, and people will recognize you for it. They'll pay you for it. You'll get paid for it as
I
well.
know,
That's
I know.
great. You know what I mean? You could just be a totally anonymous person. You don't have to share your name. No one's going to ask you who you are or where you're from. All they'll care about is the merit of the ideas that you have to share and the hard work that you're willing to put in. LongForWisdom, I don't know who that person is. I think they're a man. I think so, but I don't know, where they're from or who they are or what their race or ethnicity is or sexuality or gender is or anything. And that's, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? All I care about is
Right.
Long4Wisdom turns up every day, is doing amazing work and shepherding these different ideas and helping people refine them and explore them, and then presenting those ideas in a really, really cohesive and coherent way. Amazing.
Hmm.
Samus, right? We met Samus in Denver. Before November, no one really knew who Samus was, right? We
Right.
didn't know who he
Right.
was. All we knew that he had a Samus. We thought it was Seamus. We didn't know what was going on.
I know. I always
But
call him Seamus.
yeah, but this was a person who, consistently and to a great extent, put forward really good ideas and really built a reputation for himself in the community, and now is a fundamental member of the tokenomics work. Other people like Halulo, a year ago was a peripheral member of the community, not really, involved at all. And over the course of a year, through all the work that he's done in support and bug finding, and then, of course it's all his fault that Houston is late, right? But was late,
Yep.
but
He
but
should
no,
split the $5,000 with
yeah.
with all of us, right? He delayed it.
But what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of possibility here for a person who, I don't know Halulu's name. I think he's a man. I think he's young, from the information that he shared about himself. But I've never met him. I don't know anything about him. But what I do know is that he turns up every day. He's doing really cool contributions, doing really great work. And that's amazing. And this is the thing that I'm trying to put out there to my listeners and here now as well is, please, please, please contribute. You don't have to be a tokenomics nerd, right? I'm not a tokenomics nerd. I'm not really involved in the discussions, but what I try to do is I've built a platform for myself, so I amplify these voices and these words, and that's how I'm helping, right? And that's how you're helping as
Right.
well, and other people help in other ways. There's always some way to help, and I think that that is the satisfaction that you get from that, and the fact that you're doing a huge contribution to such a great project. For me, that's extremely worthwhile, which is why I do it every day, right? That's why I'm here every day. But I think other people should do that as well. So
Sure.
please
One
get
one thing
working.
I just want to mention about all the changes we've made. The one kind of loose end is that hasn't been resolved yet is the
Surplus.
the sh the share.
Yeah.
Are we on right? Is
Hmm.
it going to be a burn or is it going to be liquidity, an LP liquidity, deep in liquidity slash kind of burn, or are we going to do voter share? And the thing is, we don't have to know that right away because it's not going to be in Saturn 1 anyway, but they're going to they're going to kind of leave a spot in Saturn 1. So when we do decide, you can easily put it into Saturn 2.
Yeah.
And so, but on everything else, we can move forward, which is cool.
Yeah.
And if there's unresolved legal issues about how should we split the revenue sharing, then so be it. That's fine. We don't need to know that right today, July or June 21st.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I think I like that because I hate you don't want to hold up the whole project because of one little loose end, right? And it's not a little loose end. It's a big thing, but
Yeah,
we can move forward on everything else.
Of the protocol revenue is going to go towards it, like initially. So what will end up happening is, the idea is the work for Saturn 1 will start, and we'll get all these different things in Saturn 1, and then there'll be a placeholder. So when Saturn 1 does go live, they will have by then hopefully have figured out what we're doing with the surplus revenue. So that 5.5% will start going into a vault basically, and it'll just accrue. And then once Saturn 2 goes live, then we'll be able to do what we want to do with that. So whether that'll be liquidity providing, whether that will be some kind of giving money to node operators, as a voting share, that would be nice. Or burning the RPL. Like any of those things, I think would be fine. I think I'd be happy with all three of them. I feel like there's a small shift in sentiment happening away from the burn in the community and towards the voting, like voter share. I think that I'm going to keep an eye on that, but that's really interesting. I've seen a couple of people kind of pushing for the voter share narrative. One of them is Noshua, one of them is Patches. These are, very well respected members of the community who are like saying, we like the voter share. The burn is, of course, the best meme. I think I slightly favor liquidity providing because that gives you most of the benefits of the burn, but also a whole lot of liquidity for RPL. So I'm sure whatever decision gets made will be great. And I think I'm happy, we'll be happy with all three of them. So it's going to be really cool.
I'm looking forward to see what the legal team that's being asked to give their opinion on this thinks, right? Because it straightforward. If you're like the voter share, if I stake RPL and I stake my ETH, I get ETH, I get extra ETH because of that. That's just straightforward. Like, wow, I get more ETH. That sounds awesome. But does that make it look like a security? I don't know. Like that's the question. Perhaps the second best would be the liquidity providing. I don't know, but we'll settle that in a further show. I've got a win this week. What is my win? Why don't you go first? Because
my win was the Houston upgrade. It happened really smoothly. Like it was a great upgrade. I was involved in the live call, and I think that was a really fun live call. There was little bits of pieces of information. There were some funny moments. I was pulling faces during some of the answers, but I think that was a really lovely call to be part of, and it's just really great that it went off without a hitch. So yeah, Houston upgrade for me was a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. My win for the week is how I feel the sentiment has changed a little bit, and I feel like we're coming out the other side, and it's early, and I could be wrong. But I feel like the vibes. I'm starting to feel the vibes come, and it's a process, and there's probably going to be some dips in the road. But I don't know, Whack. I just get a sense that the market's starting to turn a little bit in favor of Rocket Pool, and what a good time for that to be occurring because we've got so much going on. Houston just deployed, NodeSet coming up, Saturn, the first Saturn coming, perhaps in 6 months or so. And so I don't know, man. I feel like this is a good time, and I think that's a win. I think, like you said, you go into Discord, people are a little more cheery than they were before. Even, the folks in Discord are the most passionate Rocket Pool folks, and they were feeling shitty, right? And that sucks. And but I feel like that, I don't know, the sentiment seems to be changing, which comes with price, right? And price drives 90% of all this stuff, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, it drives so much.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like, a couple of weeks ago, I was saying that I think we saw the bottom on the ratio in terms of going into rewards night.
Yep.
I think hopefully that will play out. Thankfully, like that would be huge help because so many people were underwater, and now slowly those people are coming back up above 10%, and hopefully more and more people will come up above 10%, and the sentiment will improve even more. But hey, we're doing all we can. That of course
Yep.
is never a guarantee that price will go up, right? Like you can work as hard as you want, but
Yeah.
it just might not work your way. But all you can do is try, and my God, we're trying really hard. So uh, I think it should be good.
Yeah, just one last thought on that. I was the trends, things sometimes it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're the type, like I live near the river, and there's this giant, it's called Devil's Hole, and it is a monster. It's a monster. It looks like a giant hurricane. It's
Local.
circling, and you watch the majority of the water goes in, but you'll see these backflows. Like you'll actually see water along the shore going the opposite direction. You're like, how is that possible? It's bucking, there's millions and millions of gallons of water going this way, but on the edges, you'll see a counterflow. Can you be in that counterflow? Yeah, but it's rare. 95% of the rest of the water is going this way, and you can paddle and swim as hard as you can, but if you're stuck in that, you can't get out of it.
Yeah.
But that's where at some point later in the cycle, the altcoins start taking off, like we looked at that chart earlier. And but it's good to see Rocket Pool at the moment kind of bucking that trend, and we are in the counterflow a little bit. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel good about it. So until next week, I hope we have some more positive things to share with our audience.
Absolutely.
Make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. And Whack, same with you. Have a great week.
Yeah, YouTube, Pat. See you all next time. Bye.
Okay, bye bye.